Welcome to The Explainer. So picture this. You're one of the most talented, heavily celebrated footballers on the entire planet. You've won the trophies, scored the impossible goals, and captivated millions. And then you log online one day and realize the internet is calling you the Dictator. Wild, right? It's a seriously heavy nickname for a guy who plays soccer. Today, we're unpacking exactly how this happened. We're going to look at one of football's most inescapable memes and see how internet culture can literally shape a global superstar's reputation. So let's dive into this totally absurd question. Why on earth is a footballer called a dictator? When you hear that word, you think of historical power grabs, geopolitical conflicts, definitely not a winger playing a 90-minute match. It creates this massive cognitive dissonance which instantly makes you wonder, how does a sports icon get tagged with a label meant for a history book? The pipeline from superstar to memified supreme leader is honestly crazy, and it just shows you how fast narratives get built in the digital age.
Now, just to clear the air right off the bat, because, internet, no, Kylian Mbappe did not start his own country. He hasn't overthrown any governments, and he's definitely not an actual dictator. But look, the fact that we even need to say that out loud just proves how far this joke has traveled. In this explainer, we're tracking this meme all the way back to its source to figure out how some wild rumors morphed into a reputation-defining sensation.
Section 1. The Contract Catalyst, where the rumors began.
To really understand this, we gotta find ground zero. Every massive internet joke has that tiny kernel of truth that gets blown totally out of proportion, right? Well, for us, that's 2022. Paris Saint-Germain was completely desperate to keep their star man, so they handed Mbappe this massive, headline-shattering contract extension. But it wasn't just about the paycheck. Following the deal, reports just started flooding the media, claiming he got some unprecedented perks. We're talking rumors that he had a massive say over sporting decisions and even a voice in the team's transfer planning, literally deciding who gets bought and who gets sold.
Naturally, fans completely ran with this news. The running joke became that this single player suddenly had more structural power at PSG than the actual management. People were joking he had more authority than the head coach sitting on the bench and way more sway than the sporting director whose actual job it is to build the squad. Whether it was entirely true or not, the perception was totally locked in. The seed was planted that Kylian Mbappe wasn't just playing for PSG, he was running the whole show.
Section 2. The Internet takes control. The anatomy of a meme.
So, while the traditional sports media talked about the contract, internet culture grabbed those reports and just hit the gas. It was this massive snowball effect. First, you had people in the comments calling him President Mbappe. Then, as the joke picked up speed, it escalated to Manager Mbappe and Sporting Director Mbappe. Fans were having a total field day picturing him sitting behind some giant mahogany desk calling the shots. And then, the internet took it to its absolute most absurd extreme. The final boss of nicknames arrived, Dictator Mbappe. What started as a rumor about contract perks just inflated into this ubiquitous label.
But a meme needs fuel to survive, and it got a massive tank of it thanks to the Mohamed Henny controversy. Henny is a super popular French influencer who was making these jokes using Mbappe's name. Long story short, Henny later claimed the superstar was actively trying to legally control how his name was being used. Now, regardless of the actual legal realities of that situation, the internet only saw one thing, a powerful guy allegedly trying to silence a joke. And well, you know how the internet handles that. It just cranked the Dictator Mbappe content up to 11.
From there, the meme completely exploded. Fans essentially weaponized the whole controversy. Creators were pumping out these absurd video edits, taking regular footage of Mbappe and slapping dramatic cinematic music over it. They were photoshopping him into historical military uniforms and creating fake, subtitled speeches to make it look like he was addressing a nation instead of a locker room. And honestly, they were hilarious. They were so highly shareable that even his biggest fans started using them affectionately. It became an actual cultural touchstone.
Section 3. Exaggeration versus reality. Does he control everything?
Okay, let's step out of the internet echo chamber for a second. Does he actually control everything? Let's separate the myth from the reality. The myth is that he's got complete and total control over PSG, like some puppet master pulling all the strings at the club. The reality? It's heavily fueled by social media exaggeration. Those stories of absolute, unchecked power were just chewed up and spat out by the internet machine. No single player, no matter how ridiculously talented, is single-handedly running a multi-billion-dollar football club.
However, and this is a really big however, the most persistent memes survive because they have a foundation in reality. Critics point to some very real reported incidents. For one, he undeniably had significant influence during those contract talks. 2, there were highly public tactical disagreements about where he played on the pitch. And 3, plenty of reports highlighted genuine tension inside the PSG dressing room. Now, we're not taking sides here, we're just looking at the facts. These real moments provided just enough truth, just enough smoke to keep the meme alive and convince people that Mbappe really did want things his own way.
And here's the wildest part about how memes shape reputations. They do not care about borders. This perception of him being a dictator literally followed him all the way to the French national team. As he stepped up to take the captain's armband for his country, journalists actually started questioning his level of influence within the national squad. The internet joke had successfully jumped from his club life straight into international duty.
Which brings us to a moment that perfectly proves the core thesis of this explainer. Get a load of this quote. "You make Kylian Mbappe seem like a dictator." That wasn't a Reddit comment. That was said by Didier Deschamps, the head coach of the French national team, during an actual press conference. Think about that for a second. The internet meme successfully breached reality. The narrative built entirely on photoshopped uniforms and fake speeches got so loud and pervasive that a national team manager had to address it directly to the global press.
In that exact same press conference, Deschamps passionately went to bat for his player. He was adamant that the media's image absolutely does not reflect reality, emphasizing that Mbappe remains highly respected by his teammates. He painted a picture of a dedicated captain, not some authoritarian ruler. But the sheer fact that the head coach had to publicly clarify that a meme isn't real life, that shows you exactly how heavy an internet joke can weigh on a real person's reputation.
Section 4. How memes shape reputations. The cost of superstardom.
This whole saga is basically a masterclass in how internet culture actively molds real-world reputations. It's the perfect storm. Mix a player who has genuine influence with global superstar status and let the social media algorithms just amplify the jokes. When you're the most talked about footballer on the planet, millions of people who will never meet you are going to define you entirely by a meme. It proves that a tiny bit of truth, combined with rapid information sharing, can permanently alter your legacy. It's just the modern cost to being at the absolute top of the game.
So, I want to leave you with this to chew on. Is Mbappe just being unfairly criticized by an internet culture that loves to tear down its heroes? Or is there a genuine case to be made that one player simply has too much power? What do you think about how this meme shaped his global reputation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd absolutely love to read your take on this. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the narratives, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.